Duan Ling Tian didn't return to the Crimson Sky Kingdom, nor did he return to the Seven Star Sword sect after leaving the Flying Rainbow sect, and he instead headed all the way to the imperial city of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. After he arrived at the imperial city, he headed directly to the main guild of the Weapons Craftsman Guild to look for Luo Rong. Luo Rong was the guild master of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's Weapons Craftsman main guild, and at the same time, he was the grandfather of Crazy Young Master, who was ranked at the top amongst the 5 great young masters, Luo Zhan, and he could be considered to be an old acquaintance of Duan Ling Tian's in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's imperial city. "Master, you've returned." Luo Rong still maintained a respectful manner towards Duan Ling Tian when he saw Duan Ling Tian after 2 years. This respect was because Duan Ling Tian had provided him the grace of guidance in the Dao of weapons refinement, and he couldn't forget it for his entire lifetime. "Help me look for some materials." Duan Ling Tian went straight to the point and spoke of the reason for his arrival. Amongst all the people that he knew in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, the old man before him undoubtedly possessed the broadest connections. "Please tell me what you need, Master." Luo Rong answered respectfully and reverently. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and then he spoke of some materials that were comparatively rare. Of course, even though these materials were rare, yet they weren't precious, and it was completely capable of being gathered in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's imperial city. Otherwise, Duan Ling Tian wouldn't come look for Luo Rong. "I'll go instruct my subordinates." Luo Rong spoke to Duan Ling Tian before leaving, and he only returned after half an hour. "Master, I've already posted a reward for those materials in our guild. Besides that, I've asked someone to enter the Imperial Palace and contact the members of the Imperial family. The materials stored by the Imperial family are the most complete collection in the entire Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. The materials ought to be able to be gathered within 3 days." "Okay, thank you for the trouble." Duan Ling Tian nodded, and then he asked, "Right, has Luo Zhan returned?" "No." Long Rong shook his head, and then he said slowly, "That child has been eager to do well since a young age. It was still fine in the past when he was publicly acknowledged as the most outstanding amongst the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, as he felt no pressure. 2 years ago, your appearance and the pressure placed upon him by Saber Young Master had undoubtedly caused him to suffer a great blow. Thus, he decided to go out and gain experience and tempering. But, going out to gain experience and tempering is a good thing, as it's capable of polishing of the edge of his spirit and allowing him to become slightly more mature." When he spoke up to here, Luo Rong stopped. "Master, I heard you advanced in the Young Genius competition of the Darkstone Empire and obtained the qualifications to participate in the Darkhan Dynasty's martial competition. I wonder if you've advanced in the Dynasty martial competition in the Darkhan Dynasty. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled and nodded. As expected. Ludo Rong nodded, and he seemed to not be surprised. This caused Duan Lingtian to be slightly bewildered, and he couldn't help but ask. You aren't surprised? If this matter were to happen on another like my grandson, then perhaps I would be surprised. But when it occurred on you, Master, I instead feel it couldn't be any more normal. Ludo Rong spoke out with what he thought in his heart, and it caused Duan Lingtian to be speechless to the point of being at a loss for what to answer with. He couldn't say thank you for your praise, right? Subsequently, Duan Lingtian temporarily stayed at the guild under Ludo Rong's arrangement, and he waited for the materials to arrive. The materials Duan Lingtian asked Ludo Rong to search for were materials used for inscriptions, and they were the materials required to construct the inscription formation Duan Lingtian intended to use. Constructing an inscription formation for the first time is truly slightly exciting. But with the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, there isn't the slightest pressure. Duan Lingtian's face was suffused with a wisp of rossiness as he looked at the pile of materials on the table as he sat quietly in his room, and it was a rossiness of excitement. With a raise of his hand, numerous low-grade origin stones were withdrawn by Duan Lingtian. Origin stones aren't a problem. I only hope that those materials can be gathered. In that way, I can successfully extract all the spirit points in the base of the demonic Lotus Blade sect, Origin Convergence sect, and Snow Moon sect before moving them to the Seven Star Sword sect. Extracting them was different from just extracting the energy within, as extracting the energy that had been accumulated for many years within the spirit points only required an origin drawing pearl. It was a physical effort that anyone could do easily to the point it utterly didn't require one to use one's brains. On the other hand, extracting spirit points was skilled work that required one to use one's brain intensely, as it could only be achieved when combined with special inscription formations. If one really wanted to speak about the difference between the two, the former only extracted the spirit energy of the heavens and earth that had been accumulated in the spirit point for many years, and after a period of time, spirit energy would once again accumulate within it. Moreover, the spirit energy extracted from the spirit point would be gone once it was used. The latter instead extracted spirit points by the roots. No matter if it was the spirit energy accumulated within the spirit point or the spirit point itself, all of them would be directly extracted. Duan Lingtian wanted to achieve the latter. He wanted to utilize the inscription formation he possessed to extract the spirit points of the three great sects by the roots, and then move them to the 7 great sword peaks of the 7-star sword sect. At that time, besides the 9 spirit points that had temporarily lost their spirit energy, the 7-star sword sect would gain another 20 plus spirit points. Perhaps I can consider extracting the spirit points from that mountain split sect as well. In any case, the mountain split sect was annihilated by the Azure Forest Trisect, and leaving the spirit points there is a waste. Duan Ling Tian's expression turned serious and had a righteous expression on his face as he muttered to himself. Even though the materials hadn't been completely gathered, it didn't affect Duan Ling Tian from starting to inscribe the inscriptions. The inscriptions he had to inscribe now were the inscriptions required to construct the inscription formation. These inscriptions didn't rely on origin energy to be powered, as they were powered by origin stones instead. Only in this way could the inscription formation maintain a tireless circulation. He couldn't be using his origin energy to power the inscription formation at all times, right? Besides some inscription formations that possessed some special requirements, otherwise, practically all the inscription formations constructed from formidable inscription masters of the foreign lands utilized origin stones to circulate. After Duan Ling Tian's cultivation broke through to the 9th level of the void initiation stage, his spiritual force had advanced to the 2nd level of the void interpretation stage along with his cultivation, and inscribing the inscription he needed at this moment almost didn't consume any of his spiritual force. So, after 3 days and 2 nights of continuing without sleeping, Duan Ling Tian didn't feel a trace of exhaustion, and he was still brimming with spirit. On the night of the 3rd day, Luo Rong knocked on Duan Ling Tian's door and sent in the last pile of materials required by Duan Ling Tian. "Master, all the materials have arrived. Thank you for the trouble." Duan Ling Tian nodded in gratitude to Luo Rong. "Master, you're too kind. The great favor you've given me is something is difficult for me to repay even with my life, not to mention these small matters," said Luo Rong, and then he sensibly took a step back. "Master, I won't disturb your rest." Luo Rong closed the door with a flip of his hand while leaving. Duan Ling Tian's gaze flashed as he looked at the room door that was closed. At this moment, he even had the intention of refining a grade 3 spirit sword to give to Luo Rong as thanks. But with a quick thought, it seemed that giving a grade 3 spirit sword to Luo Rong would only harm Luo Rong. Not to mention the yearning of the various experts in the Darkhan dynasty towards a grade 3 spirit weapon, even if Luo Rong kept it securely, but as a weapons craftsman, would he not take it out to study? With Luo Rong's current attainments in the Dao of weapons refinement, forcefully studying a grade 3 spirit weapon was only harmful to him. So Duan Ling Tian intended to properly repay Ludo Rong in the future. The pressing matter for now is to first complete these inscriptions. Duan Ling Tian returned to his senses, and he continued inscribing the inscriptions. Half a month of time passed in the blink of an eye. During these past few days, besides occasionally going out to have a meal with Ludo Rong, Duan Ling Tian practically closed himself off within his room, and he finally completely all the inscribing of inscriptions after half a month. I ought to leave now. Duan Ling Tian directly bid his farewells after he found Ludo Rong. Master, no matter what it is, feel free to instruct me with it in the future. I'll surely try my best to help you, Master. Ludo Rong spoke with a sincere expression. Thanks. Duan Ling Tian nodded and thanked Ludo Rong before leaving the guild, and then he inquired in the imperial city about the location of the Origin Convergence sect and Snow Moon sect before leaving the imperial city. Duan Ling Tian headed all the way north and quickly entered into a world of ice and snow. According to what he'd inquired earlier, this was the location of the Snow Moon sect. But the Snow Moon sect was cold and quiet now with almost no signs of human habitation, and after going around for half a day, Duan Ling Tian didn't notice a single living person. Looks like Elder Peng really made them suffer to the point they were afraid. Besides the demonic Lotus Blade sect's demonic Lotus Blade Gorge, the former location of the Snow Moon sect and even the former location of the Origin Convergence sect are probably empty as well. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian calmed his mood and started to search for the locations of the spirit points in the Snow Moon sect. Because the spirit points here didn't have their spirit energy extracted by the Origin drawing pearls, Duan Ling Tian quickly found the location of the spirit points. Only 6. After taking a circle around the Snow Moon sect and searching carefully, Duan Ling Tian only noticed 6 spirit points. Since he'd found the spirit points, Duan Ling Tian started to get to work. Firstly, he withdrew the inscriptions that were inscribed onto numerous low-grade origin stones by the various materials. Duan Ling Tian stood at the eye of one of the spirit points before numerous low-grade origin stones shot out from his hand and arranged themselves with extreme order on the eye of the spirit point. Gradually, they formed a triangular shape, and the numerous origin stones joined closely together to the point they became attached tightly. Clang! Along with the last origin stone shooting out and fusing into the triangular shaped arrangement formed by the numerous origin stones, all the origin stones started flickering with strands of milky white glows. In next to no time, the strands of milky white glows effused out before converging together to form a triangular-shaped milky white ring of light. It's a success. Even though he'd guessed long ago that it wouldn't fail, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but reveal a smile of joy when he saw the scene of the inscription formation really being activated successfully.